Welcome to Chess on the Brain. So we have a game tonight by Jameson Tang, or I think Jameson Tang. He submitted it after watching my last video that I posted of Jamal Abdul Ali, and it's a really interesting battle that he had, and led to a really good endgame as well. So let's jump into it, and feel free to submit your games as well, and I can analyze it for you. So started with D4. Jameson was playing with the black pieces. Knight f6 rather. So we have the it just says here the Indian game. It's kind of like, I think it'll be considered the old Indian, whereas like the modern ones is where you get that quick fianchetto. But he plays it a little bit differently, which is interesting. And I have some Indian trap music that I like in the background, going with the background music theme. Okay, so bishop f4. And funny enough, Jamal, playing with the white pieces, did bishop f4, kind of like the London system. That was against d5 though. So this is Knight f6 is kind of more flexible. You're not committing to the center yet. You're not saying where you're going to strike. Not that you're not going to take the center, but you're waiting a little bit, right? So you say, hey, I might go with c5. I might go with the traditional d5. Maybe I'm just going to hold back with d6. And like I said, kind of like King's Indian, the modern one will be with g6. But the old Indian is more like an d6 and e5, that type of thing. So hey, if we can get e5 in, it's going to be hard. But if we can really hit that bishop with a tempo. Of course, after knight f3, there's a lot of control on that e5 square. But he ends up fighting for the dark squares. So you kind of have to choose your strategy. You're going to fight back against the dark squares, and you're going to be like, okay, you take the dark squares, I take the light squares, and we'll see where it goes from there. So he immediately strikes on the dark square. Now c5, and this hits d4, and also you're unleashing your queen to b6 or a5. And I think this is a good move, saying, hey, you bring out that bishop, it's going to get punished right away. You know, that bishop is, maybe I had a little too bad, I turned it down. Don't get some feedback. That bishop coming out leaves b2 undefended. Of course, you know, if you're going for that, it's kind of a poison pawn sometimes. It worked for Bobby Fischer, but of course he had those lines down to a science when he was playing those in the Sicilian. But we can think about it. At least it's in the air. Queen b6 to hit b2, and you have to make your opponent worry about it. And by the way, so we have George Lundy was playing with white, 1529 against 1875, and Jameson was telling me that he was having a tough time finding some opponents around his rating. Hopefully he gets some coming up in live tournaments. But either way, this guy gave him a really hard time. You never know, people are underrated all the time, so you can't give, gotta take it with a grain of salt for the rating. So after e3, g6. Okay, so now he's going there. Now, I mean, I thought, like, queen b6 just jumped out at me. I thought, why not try that? I mean, it's a little bit of a different nature of the game. It's kind of more, you might go into more forced variations where you have to make a decision about your queen. Like for instance, they could go knight c3 or even knight a3. That actually seems to be the best response. And there's a lot of interesting lines here. As you can see, it gets pretty far. I think I found one of them was actually from a master game, like a 2400 level player who won as black. Let's see, we'll get to that. So it looks like if they go knight a3, you can just take the pawn on d4, and then knight d5 seems to be the way to go. And at this point, the bishop should probably go back and defend the pawn. And then you just something like e6, get the bishop out. And I was thinking, okay, well, what would happen if c4? It wasn't a computer's recommendation, but I thought, okay, that's for a lot of humans to try that, right? Seems natural. Although I think the thing about knight a3 is the point is to go to c4, right? I'm wondering, okay, well, if you want to kick that knight out, let's just say you try this. Bishop can take, and then the knight just goes back, and it's like, I think black is fine here. It looks like black's okay. It's not, white doesn't have any clear advantage. This could become a target. You can think that you can see the knight going to f5, hitting d4. So I think that, yeah, queen b6 could work out pretty well for you here. The other thing is knight c3. I think that's the line that the master game. It goes like this. d6. I just pulled up the opening book there. You can get that on leadchess.org for free. Check, for example, you just block. And of course, there's a lot of variations. I'm like, okay, this one seems reasonable, one of the main lines. And you start following the line, and then you get to a good game. Take the bishop away. Now, before you take it, take the queen back, gain some space for white. Then he takes it. And then they went d5. Seems natural. But after g6, now this one, black ended up winning after bishop g7. Castles. Seems natural, bishop h6, but you just ignore it because they went b5. So getting that queenside counterplay. Now you think, okay, well, if you just let this pawn keep on going, well, first of all, you're threatening the pawn by removing the knight. moving the defender. So, of course, white figures, well, not that. Of course, white figures, I'll take en passant, create a target here. But black has a target as well on b2. Trade bishops, rook a2, kind of awkward. Maybe later on after the castle, they can double up, get the a6 pawn. That's what they're hoping for. And really target a6. But in the meantime, black stirs up some counterplay. Queen comes in, and then starts shoving the a pawn down, gaining space, and crippling the b2 pawn, making that a backward pawn, can't push. And black is fully developed here. So in the game, they just kept going. They went a3. Seemed like e6 was also possible, maybe just to crack it open in the center. While the white king is centralized, may as well bust it open. But in that game, they just went for a3. And they're saying, hey, you can go into an endgame if you want to take my queen. But that seems okay for black. Get that pawn coming in, and the knight will come in, and so forth. So just to show you a little bit of how the opening can go, and then we'll get jumping in the middle game. And then after queen a6, this was pretty good for black. With a couple more moves, h4, h5. Stop it, kind of like the Solstice variation of the dragon. You just stick your pawn at h5 and you clog that pawn up. Don't let them open up the h file so easily. You make them sacrifice to do it. Get your knight centralized. And I just thought, okay, this position, black is good, and they ended up winning. And then I was wondering also, well, what if they take on b2? What if you just go for it? This is terrible. So you don't want to take on b2 in this line after knight c3 rather. This was it was this line, right? Yeah, instead of knight d5, queen takes b2, and then the knight just goes to b5, threatening a fork, of course. So you have to go knight a6. Whoops. Oh, you just saw the end of the game. There you go. You got a little preview. Okay, so in this position, where are we? Right here. So after knight b5, knight a6, a3, and then again that knight d5 move. It's annoying. You see, you're trying to prove that this bishop is misplaced. But what happens is queen is more misplaced, because the thing about knight b5 is not just to threaten the fork. It guards a3 and c3. So once you hit him with rook b1, a lot of times you trap the queen in a situation like this. Here you still have one square, you have a2, but you can't get out right now. You got to move the knight. Bishop goes back, and I thought, okay, well, what if you did move the knight? Maybe d6, or if you go knight b6, rook b3, you're not getting out. And you can just see, like, there's nothing you can do to get out. So knight comes in, you're not going to win the queen immediately, but let's say you go here, the knight goes into e5, and white is way better, black's queen is stuck, and the computer says +4. Basically, there's a lot of winning lines here. Eventually, the queen gets trapped. You may have to, find a way to kick this knight out. Eventually, knight c3 comes, something like that. But it's going to get trapped. And then, so the best move would be d6 after bishop g3, just d6. But even then, try and kick the bishop. Just go here. There's just not enough. It's just not enough. Rook takes b7, and again, it's a pretty disastrous situation. The rook comes out, hitting c7. Queen is still misplaced, but also it's just like black's king is not able to castle now anywhere good. It can't go anywhere good. And, if you castle this way, this is already opened up. Can't even get to h4, so this h5 move didn't do anything at all. But yeah, this is a bad situation. So taking on b2 in this case wouldn't work out for you. But still, that queen b6 move, it still kind of creates some interesting possibilities, hits b2 and puts pressure on d4. So I thought maybe you could have tried that. But this was the more kind of consistent move, g6, or actually d6 is also possible. You can always do d6 here, or later on. So g6, c3, bishop g7. So he just chooses to develop. And of course, anytime you take this pawn, it's kind of hard to hold on to it. And if you do want to play this, to hold on to it, you're going to weaken that diagonal where the bishop is sitting. So it's kind of like, don't mess with it, because the knight's going to come in here. Like, let's say you took right away. I mean, sometimes you could even, like, the computer's even recommending b6 just to trade it off. You could just trade off the pawn and get a lot of activity. And again, that queen comes out. That's pretty interesting. So you're going to be hitting b2, and now it looks even more tempting to take. Knight d2, okay. We just keep on developing, looks like. You could do castling or d6. Let's say you castle. And yeah, black's just way ahead in development here. You already castle. White needs to get out 2 pieces and a lot of open lines to get some good compensation for the pawn. But again, you don't even need b6 a lot of times. But what if you went knight right away? Would that work? What is that? With takes on b8, and then is there like, oh, there's queen a4? Oh, okay, queen a7, I guess, but doesn't seem like that big of a deal. So you take here. Okay, you really want the a7 pawn, so you go here, take it, They take it. Okay, you're still down a pawn, but again, good like, okay, if it says you're up like half a pawn, it means there's pretty good compensation for that pawn. Oh, and then, unless there's some winning line, like knight b5 is that strong. Well, I guess the benefit is that you can't really control b5. So I guess that makes sense that knight e3 is strong. So maybe this line doesn't work out too well. Try and go here, bishop just takes it. Maybe not this line, but generally speaking, you know, if they try and take this pawn, especially if you're playing white, you're doing like a sort of a Queen's Gambit structure, and they try and take it, usually you can get it back or you get good compensation for it. So g6, just ignoring the pawn. Comes out. And then he says, all right, no, he didn't do b6 yet. Let me get rid of this. I think it's distracting me. Okay, so get rid of the stockfish. After castles, bishop out. And then he does b6, right? So now he just defends. He says, all right, I'm not even going to give you the option of taking anymore and try to win the pawn. And then now it'll be in the air whether I'm going to play d6 or d5. Again, whether I'm going to play directly for the light squares and some dark square pressure, or whether I want to go all out on the dark squares and maybe play e5 or something. Hit that bishop. It could become a target on f4. And again, it didn't defend b2, so there are some issues with bishop f4, even though it's active. So h3, okay, well I guess he's preparing to be hit somehow. Even if you go knight h5, for example, he really wants to keep his bishop. He can preserve it on h2, and once he's there, he has that nice diagonal. So that's sensible. Maybe he goes for g4 at some point. I'd rather do that if I had bishop g2 available, because then you're going to hit by this bishop. So, and immediately go bishop b7 and start hitting that. No more g4 there. The knight blocks. And then there we go. Now he kind of clarifies his intentions in the center. So he's going to create this solid structure, create this little pyramid. And then, but still, you're still a little flexible because you can just not move any more pawns. You can play even e6 and see where it goes, or you go for e5 after maybe d7, maybe rook e8, things like that. But there's actually a tactical shot here that black missed. So Jameson could have done this after, and hopefully I don't know if it's Jameson or Jameson. I'll go with Jameson. Let me know if it's wrong. Okay, so after castles, knight bd7, rook e1. So the second you go knight bd7, you get rid of the opening rook too. Just getting into the game now. We're out of the opening. So, but there has been one game though. Play queen c7. But in the game he did rook e8. Okay? So it turns out though, you actually have a really good move here. Think about it for a second. What would you play here if you were black? What would you play? There's actually a tactical possibility. Now, tactics arise generally out of two circumstances. Maybe three, but two general things. Either an exposed king or loose pieces. And then I guess as like a subcategory of loose pieces, I would say awkwardly placed pieces, like a piece that could become trapped or something like that, or that's not well defended. But again, that's loose. But generally speaking, loose or awkward pieces and exposed king. In this case, it's going to be about the loose pieces. So, and a piece that's kind of just sticking his neck out too much, which was that bishop on f4, as we said. We were talking about the e5 idea. But can you justify it tactically? Yeah, you can. Why? Because of that bishop hanging on d3. We're loose at the moment. It will be hanging. So this is pretty nice. You can actually just play e5 immediately. And you can see that after takes, well, look at that. I mean, if you don't take it, it's coming. If you move your bishop away. Let's say you try and, again, go as planned to return here. You're getting forks. Because there's two attackers, but we have two defenders on that pawn right there. So we're holding that pawn. We would win a piece for a pawn, and we're forking the knight and the bishop. So that's winning. Okay, so he has to do something else. You take it, still take back, pawn, not like in the game. This time you can take with the pawn, and again, go back, be forked. And the way it works is that even though there's two attackers, there's like indirectly there's a second defender via the queen, hitting the bishop. So when you take it, you're unleashing your queen. Nice discovered attack, like a clearance on that bishop. So you can't take it because you can, but you're just dropping a bishop for nothing. For one pawn, down 2 points. So yeah, so you don't really want that. But rook e8 is forecasting your intentions, which is fine, because you say, hey, I'm going to get e5 then, and you do. But this is going to be more effective because of the fact that you're threatening e4 immediately. You don't give them time to shore up their position. Now, the only defense is what? I don't even think you'd want to take it once. You don't want to get exposed to bishop. I think you got to go bishop g5 because now e4 doesn't work. See, now they've undermined one of these defenders of e4. So now they could just chop it. Just take it with either one, hitting the bishop, and you can't take it because it's the pin. So of course, you wouldn't play e4, you would play h6. And then when they take it, they're going to have to take it now. Otherwise, again, get rid of that bishop. Again, kick him out of the way, and again, e4 is coming because no more pin. Okay, well, there's more complications, but you're still winning the piece ultimately. When they take on d6, just move your rook. It's still a fork. Just for 2 pawns now, but should be winning. Very good winning chances there. So after bishop takes f6, what would we take back with? Probably just the queen. If you take with the knight, no, if you take with the knight, then they're going to go takes, and when you take back, this looks really loose. That can't work. That can't work. You just attack the knight. But how? I'm not sure. How about here? That's it. Bam. Because if you're threatening mate, you're threatening this, and if you try, oh, you have this move. You have this move. Maybe white hangs on by a thread here. Just picks up the pawn. There is the resource. Because again, you can't go back here, though. That was the main thing I was looking at, because he would drop this. But yeah, knight df3 looks to me like that saves him. So yeah, I probably would just take back with the queen if that doesn't work. And if they want to take now, take back with, we can take our pick. Probably the pawn. Or yeah, the knight's not bad either. But let's say we take with the pawn, and we can bring a rook to the d file. But we've achieved, we have the bishop pair, we have more space. Only drawback, as I talk about a lot with pawn structure, since pawns are the soul of chess, is you're weakening theoretically the d5 square. Because you move 2 pawns to the side of it, something might occupy that square. But how? It's only a weakness if it's attackable, right? And again, you still might get some activity. Let's say you move your queen, you still might get some activity with those pawns and try to fork. But you're not quite there in this position because your knight left the attack on e4, but you got the bishop pair, so black has something to show for it. And again, that rook is coming out, and we're gonna get a lot of activity against these pieces, the d file, kind of like what happened in the game. But here you have the bishop pair, so again, no matter what happens, you're gonna gain more by that immediate e5. And you can see the evaluation shifting a bit. Minus 0.3, good for black. Plus 0.2, good for white. Again, a slight shift. But I'd rather shift slightly in my direction than in my opponent's direction. At least, again, this is based on computer, but we see the concrete reasons for it. It's getting the initiative. You're striking on your terms rather than, a little bit slower. But that's a reasonable move. Rook e8 had a nice resource there. So bishop h2, and then he gets e5 then. Again, knowing that you're creating some weaknesses, weakening this and this, theoretically, because anytime this moves, bishop's bearing down here. But again, there is that threat of going to e4, so white has to make a choice. He just chopped it. He just chopped the pawn. And I don't know, I thought the natural move was made to take back with the pawn, rather. But there might be some value to taking with the knight. Well, look, this knight is actually more active than this knight at the moment. So if you trade off your less active piece, and you're actually getting rid of a defender around the king, it makes sense. Because now, he didn't even take it, he just retreated. But if he did take it, okay, now obviously we take with the pawn, since the bishop, we don't want to give up the exchange for nothing. And now we hit the bishop, unleashing that. And we have this open too. That seems like a pretty good position for black to have. So I think, I think taking with the knight was actually a pretty reasonable choice. That was a good choice rather than with, this wouldn't have been bad, but I could see some merit to taking here first. Getting rid of your passive piece and trading it off for an active piece. Makes sense. Even though at the end of it, though, we are going to get some space when you take back with the pawn. Okay, queen e7, reasonable, good. Rook comes here next. And you could do, maybe later on, start pushing this pawn. Of course, you have to watch out for this guy. So he takes. George takes. Pawn takes back. Queen goes to c2. And then rook d8, reasonable. Pieces out. Do we have anything more direct? Well, I think it was wise actually that Jameson waited for this. He didn't rush into this because it seems good. Superficially, it's good because you're gaining space and you got that again that wedge in the opponent's position that's overprotected by all these pieces. But it has some drawbacks, namely that you're blocking your own bishop, and you're opening up your opponent's bishop. So you're also weakening some squares like f4. And if you ever move this pawn, you're weakening this square after you go here. So it's a double-edged sword. And I think, why should you rush into it? So this is a good move. I like this. Rook does the same, follows suit, rook 81, and then h5. Okay. I thought I had some analysis. Oh, I had the analysis later on. Okay. h5. Gaining space. A lot of times it actually works really well with the pawn on e4. Kind of like that game. It was a famous Fischer game where he played King's Indian attack. And I think it's called a knight. Yeah, it's called a knight, K with a K. A knight in Tunisia. If you just Google that on, just Google like chess games, a knight in Tunisia, and chessgames.com has their puns for different games. And that's a really awesome game. So reversed, right? Fischer playing as white. He pushes his e pawn, and then I think he got this pawn here as well, and that just really created a nice cramp, and it cramped up the opponent's position. And we got the game on space. Really focused on space. It was the one I analyzed about a week ago, the Capablanca game. Capablanca versus Treball, 1929. Check that out. In terms of really getting into gaining space with your pawns. But that's in a lock, totally locked up. This is like I guess I would call it a semi-open position. You got the open D file, you got some open diagonals. You don't have that total locked up. But when you do this, you do lock it up a little more. Then maybe it's semi-closed. Okay, so after bishop b5, it's the rook. Moves away, reasonable. On the move. Only reasonable move. I mean, or you could go knight d7, but why walk into a pin? Goes back. Okay. Knight h7. So now we're kind of in this territory where it's like there's not anything super concrete. I would say it's close to equal. I mean, it's just neither side has anything huge here. I think it's just that black has a little bit of space. You have c5, e5, h5, whereas white has h3, e3, c3. So white has advanced each of his pawns. Those 3 pawns 1 square. Black has advanced in 2 squares. But again, that gives black a few extra squares to work with. It restricts some of white squares. And again, we're talking about that double-edged sword. So again, there are some weaknesses maybe, but again, how do you access them? Can't really, like, well, for instance, if you play f5 now, then you really weaken this. But that's, for the moment, that's only accessible to black's pieces. So it doesn't really matter here. White's pieces are definitely cooped up, that's for sure. Black enjoys a lot of activity. And of course, white's going to try to challenge that. Okay, but this is the kind of position you have to maneuver a little bit, be patient, try to squeeze a little something out of it. Now he ended up trading off pieces, and then he ended up, yielding something from the position later on. Okay, bishop f3, and then he just traded. And again, that was I think it was a wise choice. So he didn't just run into the e4 move. Now he said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and trade it and then play e4. I think you could get away with e4, but again, you'd be blocking your bishop. If you felt like you had really good attacking chances with like maybe the knight coming in and sacking here or something, I'm not sure if that stuff is really in the air in this position. And the other benefit of taking on f3 and then going here is you weaken d3. So you're not going to get access to d3 with the bishop there. But after you've traded it, you've created those weaknesses. So even though, again, theoretically maybe d5 and d6 are weak, but those aren't really accessible. But hey, you can easily play here, and then later on you might even get this in and lock your rook in, on d3 now and double up, and so suddenly you've got this bind on white's position. So I think you have something more concrete now. Now here's where you have to have a decision to make. So the knight goes back, and you've gained space. Is it overextended or not? That's the question. Of course, white's going to try and make it overextended, and you can win a lot of games that way. Play real tight, real solid. And he's kind of rope-a-dope, right? Let them come at you, let them get. Whereas in boxing they would get exhausted. In chess they would get overextended and create weaknesses. No, but it's kind of like left, right hook, or do a jab, expose their side or something, and then go for the counterattack. So after knight f6. Now, so this would be the provocative thing. You say, hey, go ahead and play f5. I think that's what his opponent wanted him to do. And this guy's not a 1500. This guy has a much deeper understanding of 1500. Probably more like an 1800. And then Jameson's probably more like a 2000. I think they're underrated based on what I've seen. But yeah, f5 would create weaknesses. So anytime you want, you got the queen check. Maybe you can get away with it, but it's not really necessary. I think he's going more for piece play. So he starts with knight f6. I mean, you're going to be locked down, though. you're going to be locked down to that pawn. Keep in mind, though, the bishop actually doesn't do much. Yeah, it's bearing down, but it doesn't really do anything actively. And again, the rooks have to do something. So, of course, it's in white's interest here to say, all right, let's just trade off the rooks. We got to trade some pieces. That's going to ease the cramped position. Since, again, it's like with the Capablanca game, if you have a bunch of people in one small room, you know, you're going to want to get some of the people out of that room, right? Whereas if you have a big room, probably a little more comfortable if you have, you know, you can have more people in it, right? More occupants. Just common sense. So that's the problem with lack of space, though. You got to get rid of some of those pieces. That's the remedy for it. So knight c4, and he goes ahead, trades pieces. And not only that, but looking at d6. So you start to see, hey, maybe d6 becomes more relevant than d3, because actually white's bishop is really effective all of a sudden. And he's threatening to come in here, guarded by these two guys. And then he wants to get a pin, or sorry, a skewer, pick up the rook. So he's trying to win material now. So he just trades it, goes here. Now you actually move your rook away. So this is bishop coming in is no longer possible to win the rook. So the rook just trades. Now I wonder here though, maybe you could try and come in. I don't know if it does anything actually. I mean, it looks good, but what do you achieve? Let's say you go queen e6. Now you got to worry about these pieces are kind of loose, and you didn't do anything. So he just says, all right, probably just playing for a draw at this point. Trade down. Queen goes to d2. Wants to trade queens. Now the computer recommended just like, hey, just ignore the queen. Just go queen e8, and you kind of have maybe, you know, a little bit of a space advantage. It's probably equal, and maybe a draw at this point. It was boiled down, but Jameson goes for it. He goes for the gusto. Queen d3. It was interesting. I'm not sure if it works because your pawn gets exposed on d3. So I mean, while it's good to create a passed pawn, you know, it can also become a weakness, like any pawn, right? You have to prove that it's a strong pawn. Your opponent is trying to prove it's a weak pawn. So he correctly takes it, and then now this guy, this pawn right here, it could become a weakness. And as you see, the evaluation now is a +1. It's just a pawn up for white because this pawn is going to drop if white plays correctly, but he didn't. And this pawn ended up yielding black some dynamic potential that worked out. I mean, if you can get b5, it looks like get b5 and c4 in. If you can get that in and just lock it in on d3, then that's great. I mean, it's like this wedge in your opponent's position. It's a thorn deep in their position, and they have to constantly guard it. So yeah, if you can make it happen, sure, do it. But of course, white has a much better path. It's not easy to do though. But so he goes knight to d2. Now, funny enough though, if you don't play it right, this was a reasonable move. But you don't need to go there right away because there's not threat yet. Oh, I guess he was worried about maybe knight to e4. No, but it's not a threat because the king can come over and it can stop the pawn from voting. Well, it still looks tricky. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. So if let's say it doesn't do anything. Well, the computer recommended a4. This was interesting. There's a really interesting idea here. Because you want to try and start cracking these pawns. Well, yeah, you're stopping b5 as well. Actually, I think you want to just come here. Just start walking over. Walk over here, and then come here and just pick up the pawn. But the point is you're not allowing this and this. Funny enough, though, you actually could go a6 anyway, because you don't have time to take. Since you take on b6, d2 comes, and you just can't stop the pawn. So a4, but this is the precise move that white has to play. And then black has to go here, a6. But here's how white would end up winning. He would just start moving the king over. King comes over some more. b5 gets played. So you have to get this in, right? And again, that works out. It just worked. The second king f1 is played. Remember, you have to guard the pawn because now this isn't a threat since the king can stop it. So then you go knight d7. King comes over more. Kick the knight. And you get your c4 in, but then b5 drops. So it's like you got to play c4 because you have to hold that asset on d3. At least it might, in some cases, provide some compensation, but far less than the game. And white's already ahead of it. White's already got a pawn up. Not to mention you can come back and try to win a second pawn at some point. I mean, you have knight. Well, even there, you're going to get hit by the bishop. So that knight's going to get chased out. It's going to be hard to hold that pawn, actually. So yeah, this is looking like almost a win for white here. Definitely a big endgame advantage. Whereas in the game, again, that shift in evaluations, right? The second you go knight d2, now the knight comes in. Actually, you still could have gone b5. So like this show, I think the end game here, even though black ended up winning, turning it in his favor, I think the end game shows you the value of just being direct. You know, have that direct, kind of like with the rule like you did earlier. With like, go rook e8. I'm going to play e5. You did that in the early middle game, but you do that in the end game as well. Have a clear intention, follow through. That's exactly what Capablanca does, and why he's so good to study for the end game. So, I mean, the direct move is it's got to be b5, and just play for c4. So let's say the king moves over again. Knight transfers over here, and we're going to get c4 next. You could go f5. Let's see. What about c4 right away? I think in this line, I did c4 later on in this line. But I guess nothing is... Well, the thing is, like, when you move the knight to d7, you're stopping bishop e5 for one. And you're also making it so c4 can't be played because then this is going to end up falling. Well, maybe, you know, if they played c4, yeah, I think you play b4. We just go b4 here probably. And then there's a lot of weaknesses here. Guess you could go here, but that doesn't look too attractive. And then you go walking into a pin. And then the knight should start transferring. What if you just go c4 right away, though? I think we probably could do this. And there's nothing that can be attacked. And again, you're ensuring you're locking this in and you're not giving up this pawn. Whereas in the game, the problem was, or what he could have done, if he plays a4 first, he's going to end up picking up some pawns, at least the b5 pawn. But in this case, white didn't really create that challenge. You got to create the most challenging move for your opponent. But knight d2 just doesn't fit the bill. Maybe he was afraid of the push, but again, don't get intimidated. Just bring your king over. Just bring the king over and stop it. But again, a4 first. a4 was that precise move to stop e5. And then black has to try a6, but then the king comes over. Okay, so knight d2. And again, the direct move, I think, was b5. Knight d5, not bad though. But again, it's like, where are you going also? I think also knight d7, if you're going to move your knight, you may as well go here. And with b5, and then you might start maneuvering your knight in, getting into some squares, and try to pick off these pawns. That's another problem with white's position, is that this pressure from the bishop right here is going to make it difficult. Oh, this is a good part of that song. So, yeah, it's just really difficult with all these weaknesses. So, 5. And now after king f1, the evaluation went to, according to the computer, 1 to 0, but then somehow white messed it up again. After f5, bishop f4, and then b5. There we go. There it is. e1. Okay, at least the king's coming over to stop it. But now black has everything it wants. I mean, so it went from, earlier where it was about equal, the queen came in, created queens, pawn came here, and it was like, okay, it's a little loose, it's not so clear. Now it's been clarified. Pawns are locked down. So, okay, it was a little bit delayed, but ultimately black got what he wanted here. Jameson has what he wants. And, I mean, I would keep the knight on. I wouldn't even take it, because this knight's so powerful, and now that it's become a sort of more closed position due to the locked up nature of these pawns, you can use your knight to maneuver around real well. d6. King comes out. That's correct. You got to get your king in the game. 6. That's correct. Just he attacks the pawn. No need to be too ambitious yet with a5 and b4 stuff. Well, you're not going to want to play b4 and drop the pawn. So just again, be clear about your intentions. So you achieve what you were clear now. You achieve what you wanted. Good. Now it says black is up like the equivalent of a pawn, and now we got to convert that into a win. Funny enough, though, I think that white actually had a second chance. Well, at least I know white came back to equality, but I think there might have actually been a win. Bishop comes to d4, and he's happy to trade. And it's a winning knight endgame with so much space. It should be. Knight goes to f6. They say knight endgames are like king and pawn endgames, but the space should favor you. Now look at this. I mean, you have 4 pawns against 2 pawns. That's a huge majority over here. And white has the central majority, but it's harder to get moving. Well, here's the key. It comes up soon. Knight f6. Oh, he could have gone knight b4. Sure, maybe a little more accurate. Check. And then, oh, this is interesting. So when the king goes here, then you have f4. You crack this up because it's hard to defend this pawn now. So assuming you take, knight takes. Now we have the 4 against 2 again, and 4 against 2 here, but with the doubled pawn, and it's more manageable, and it's far less advanced than black's pawn. They're going to be a real headache for white there. Okay, so knight. It's not bad. Knight f6 is still fine. f3, getting the pawns rolling in the middle, a good choice. King e6, centralized. 4, reasonable. Knight d7, maneuvering. a3, so maybe oh, instead of knight d7, you could have gone immediately with h4 just to cramp these pawns. That's what you did later on. But yeah, this would have been strong for Jameson to do here. And then that's a target on g2 immediately. So it's especially powerful when you could do that, since you can always, if you ever go here, you can always take on passant. So it really cramps that pawn. And you can, and once you go here, maneuver your knight in there, that pawn, oops, not that far. If you maneuver your knight in here, the pawn here, that could fall any time. But the king is going to be tied down here, and you got to worry about this, you got to worry about this. So many problems. And if you can punch the center too, could be everything could collapse, which is sort of what happens. So knight goes to d7, a3, 6, king d1, king d6, and here again being direct. You have the knight is really well placed. It guards c4. So now remember I was talking about a5 and b4. Now we can actually do that. a5, b4, c3. Once you get your pawns like this with the knight coming in, checks, it's overwhelming. You know, you're gonna be able to get some check in and knight check and promote or something. So it's just overwhelming. So just be direct. Play a5 and b4. Now you can do it. King d6, I'm not sure what to achieve. Maybe you're like being provocative, playing for e5 check, but I don't think it's necessary. So now, actually, white gets h4 in, but keep in mind that black could get f4 at any time, and then you still have to fix. Actually, h4 gets fixed now. I'm not sure about h4. It may not have been much better here, but try this. Right, reroutes, but again, you're already guarding c4, which is something you want in order to achieve your pawn push. So maximize your position. That's the way to maximize. Get maximum pressure. Go for it. But you're kind of maneuvering around a little bit. Couldn't hurt. You can always do that later, I guess. But look, actually, interestingly enough, after knight b8, it says it's equal. So again, the advantage was lost. But I mean, if white plays it perfectly, you still have these assets here. Those assets aren't going away, so long as we can handle these ones in the middle, which I think we can. Because you notice the relative king placement. But here's the key: after not knight c3, you got to do this king move. So because you have to defend d4, and you don't want to have to play this move, because then you create all the weaknesses around it. So that's now white's the one who overextends his pawns. So after knight c6, king c3, white's holding the fort. And then it says maybe white's even slightly better there. But okay, it's equal. But after knight c3, well, you just hit the pawn. Great move. Now the pawn has to move. Again, cramping. I mean, no knight e2 available based on that cramping pawn. Okay, you check. King d7. May as well. Oh yeah, you have to, because if you go here, you're going to get forked. So you got to go back. Can't go to d5, obviously, because the knight. So you have to go back. And then, yeah, okay, playing for tricks. If you take, you get a fork. But you just don't take it. But and now you just have crisis almost on these in terms of the what's the word? The blockade is almost a crisis because these pawns are going to collapse. I wonder if you had to go. What if you just went like king d6? Because then it maybe doesn't make a huge shift. Probably could have gone king d6, but king e7 does minus 1.6. So basically, black is up more than a pawn now, almost 2 pawns on evaluation. d5 has to be played to hold this one. Yeah, but then that just comes in. And again, these guys aren't going anywhere. You can't move your knight anywhere to support them. And anytime, you can easily block it anytime you want. But this guy can be picked off, and this one's going to fall eventually. But before that happens, these ones are targeted. Look what happens here. After knight, king d2, great move, f4. So, sure, you could use a few inaccuracies, but when it came down to it, I can't blame you. Because when it came down to it, you found the moves, right? Jameson found them. You found f4. He found b5, he found c4. So even though theoretically this pawn he could have been losing if white had played accurately and brought the king there earlier, they both delayed it a bit. So and that's why they're not grandmasters yet, right? Even grandmasters don't play perfectly. A few inaccuracies, it happens, right? But they learned from it and play better afterwards. But ultimately did what they needed to do. But in this case, it's too late for white. What black's achieved here is too strong. These pawns here, these pawns are going to fall eventually, and most importantly, these pawns are fixed, so you can see the 2 targets. So you have a clear path of destruction for your knight. Knight f5, knight f4, knight takes 2, and done. Each pawn pushes. Well, of course, white gets some counterplay. Knight e4, knight f5, going for it. You can't defend the pawn. So he goes for counterplay here. And again, if you had gotten that going, you wouldn't even have time for any of this stuff. I'll show you right. There was one chance where white could have won at the end. So white had a few chances to equalize. But then maybe based on some slight inaccuracy, but actually I'll show you in a few moves, white could have actually won this game. Black is going for the win. No, it's completely winning position. Actually, there is even you could even just play G5 because I mean you have a choice here. You can either say, hey, I'm going to take more pawns, or I'm going to kind of retract a bit, kind of come back, solidify, and then go for the kill after that. Like you could just go G5, knight B4, king D6. Oh, did the soundtrack end? Still got a few more minutes. All right. So after king D6, and then you come back, no tricks. You're going for the B5 pawn. You chop it, they chop it, you chop it, and what we got three. We're up one pawn, but most importantly, this pawn's coming fast. Come over here and stop this one easily, but then H pawn pushes. Okay, you can break those up, throw it away. When you go after that one, now you're getting the G pawn, and you're going to push the H pawn anyway. So I mean, it comes down to pretty much the same difference. Maybe slightly less complexity than the game, but I mean, this should have been easily won too. Keep it simple, right? You push your pawn, you take it, keep going, keep going. But look, they're trying to get the one thing they want. Don't give your opponent the one thing they want, right? So when they go E7, they want to get a queen. Well, just move your king back and then get your queen. So instead, black gets a queen, white gets a queen. It might have been extreme time pressure. I don't know. But this was just the easy way to finish it off. I mean, no, not only that, but if you don't do it, you're losing. Like, white should be winning this. So after king D7, white should be winning this after black gets an immediate queen. But black, of course, is winning after this. Throwing a check, I take the pawn, danger's gone, and you can't stop the queen. It's over. Game. Queen comes with the knight. It's going to be checkmate soon. Queen up. So, but when you get a queen, they get a queen. Well, why are you giving them the same thing you got, right? Don't give them a queen too. You don't need to. Okay, throw the pawn at them. Maybe the best chance was queen h4, but it's still not comfortable. Throw the pawn at them, and you can see it says +7 now. Takes. Well, I'll show the practical reason. Queen g1. Now it's actually mate in 5. So they missed it. That was a bad move. Queen takes. Got to go queen e7 check. Lock it in. See, obviously there's a series of checks, which does in fact lead to mate. So queen e6, you got the light squares, you got the dark squares. Got to walk over to the side. Keep coming with check. Knight guarded the queen. Keep advancing. And queen e6. Or you can even, if you feel like it, I think this one works too. Check. And we can mate on c6. Dark squares, got the light squares. Defended. So that's a nice mating net. You can catch them in the middle. But after queen takes g6, now it's now it's a whole skirmish. It's a mess. I think it's probably on account of time pressure. But now suddenly black's winning. After check, this is winning, but this is kind of cool. You can get a forced mate to the queen. Sorry, promote to a knight under promotion, and then your queen comes in and mate. Just don't do this. Don't go for the mate there because oops, now it's mate the other way. Just be careful. Don't get too excited, right? When you see that you have the win, got to make sure that you do clinch it. Don't give your opponent anything. You've been working hard for this, right? You took it from an equal position. Maybe you're slightly, maybe you give them a little something to take that risk, but it paid off. You got to make sure it works though. You got to make sure you convert it. And the way to do that is you don't give them the one thing they want. That's probably the lesson from this game. One thing your opponent wants, don't give it to them. But there's also some good lessons in terms of how to play that end game, how to play the end game, and be very, very deliberate. Really clear about what you need to do in the position. So, for instance, when you had the chance to play for a5, go for it. You go back, just get a5 in. What is white going to do here? They have no play. You want to go here and check? I just go here. These are going to fall. Plus, you got b4 coming and c3 coming. It's just a straightforward win. Again, it ended up working out, so we can quibble about it and say which was the clearest win. But just in general, that's a good rule of thumb. But in terms of what you did well, for sure, like the fact that you were able to come from a nearly equal position and turn it into a win, that's a really great effort. And no, it's good, and it's good that it wasn't just like a clear win, because then it would be boring and we wouldn't get anything out of it. I mean, unless it's like some awesome win, okay, we can enjoy it. But if you're going to submit your games, I always like it. Or it doesn't have to be a loss, but something where you can learn stuff where there's a lot of strategic ideas at play. So yeah, and there was a lot to the opening too. There was a lot of good stuff in this opening with that queen b6 stuff that could have happened. But yeah, he chose a solid option, but that really also that tactical shot. No rook e8. Again, that was deliberate, which I can't blame you for. But keep in mind, look for those tactical possibilities. You see a loose bishop, you see a bishop sticking his neck out. No king issues here, but it's about piece placement issues. And you want, and not only that, but the awkward pieces, pieces that can be forked and so forth. So we have every ingredient, and black is fully developed, ready for that quick strike with e5, and pretty much you got to go, you got to go bishop g5, and then no, not e4, but then you would play h6, and black would get the bishop pair. Take with the correct line, I think, was taken with the queen, and black should be at least black has something to work with. If nothing else, as I say about the opening, make sure you have something to work with. Or as Silman says, you want to create an imbalance out of the opening. But in other words, that's something concrete that you can work with throughout the game, and you can transfer one advantage, trade it off for another advantage. Take a pawn and throw the pawn away to get some attack, to get some development, things like that. Get a weak square to get an outpost for your knight. But that's what you want to make sure you do out of the opening. But the middle game play was really good. Once you got this in, the knight take was a good choice. And get the d file, reasonable. Waiting on e4, I like that. Okay, this was kind of annoying. You just have to move your rook. Waiting on e4, waiting until you trade off the bishop, so you don't block your bishop. Get the weakness here. Funny enough, this guy became weak too, but it was tenable. It wasn't a big deal. I think the idea was to go knight here, but ultimately that doesn't work, obviously, because they kicked away and it's not comfortable, and then you're probably going to drop the e-pawn. So again, making a wise choice, not going with f5, which is kind of rigid and weakening. Instead, just bring the knight back in the game. Being able to adjust, being fluid, being flexible, that's a good thing. And then you got to trade down, but you're still, okay, it looks almost like white just has a draw. Maybe they do. But it seems you're the stronger player. Jameson was, he outplayed his opponent. It doesn't matter if you're stronger, what the ratings are, you got to outplay your opponent. You got to try to. Doesn't matter if they're GM, outplay them. Be the one that let's say you're an 1800, 2000, be the 1800 that outplays the 27. It happens. I've seen it happen. A lot of these, speaking of that, from India, a lot, like when I was playing in Bhopal last year, there was, I think he was like what was his rating? I think he was like an 1800, a kid, and he knocked off a GM. A really strong player from Ukraine. And then, of course, he came back and the GM won a bunch of his games after that, but he wasn't ready for this kid, right? So you expect, you're going to beat him. Never take anything for granted. And then eventually get b5 and c4 in, right? So it was the right decision. But be deliberate about it. Get it in quickly, and then get a5 in. Eventually get a5 and b4, and once you're ready, once you have that knight on b6, which was good, no need for queen. It doesn't do anything. Get a5 in. But ultimately the maneuvers were good, and you ended up picking up pawns and enough to win. And then right before the win, you can throw it away. So that's actually a common psychological mistake. It was right before you're about to win that you just make a mistake. So you think you have a winning position, you see a win, don't just make a move. Double check it. So those will be the lessons I'd say I'd take from this game. And let me see if there were anything. Oh, there's Jameson. And did I pronounce your name right? Is it Jameson or Jameson? I was looking at e5 for 10 minutes. Oh, you saw bishop g5 after e5. Okay, so going back to that position. Sorry, I didn't see your comment earlier. I was getting into it. I hope I wasn't too harsh on you, but hopefully you got something out of that. There are a lot of good things you did there. So you were looking at e5, but then you saw bishop g5. Now again, it still gives you something though. Even though he has bishop g5, you can get that bishop pair, which is, you might say, hey, that's not enough. It's just a bishop pair. But hey, you clearly got something to work with again out of the openings. Like, I wouldn't complain about it. Let's see. And then you said he offered a draw. Oh, you mentioned that. Okay, and I think you said something else about something with the e4 pawn, or you missed something on the e4. Or was that a different game? For the other game, I looked at both. I thought this was the better one to analyze. He offered a draw. Thought b3 was annoying, followed by b5 directly. Where was this? b3 was annoying, followed by b5. Where did that happen? Oh, is that like something that he could have done in the end game? b3 followed by b5. Was that? Oh, no? I think that was after the complications we looked at with queen b6. When was that? This This is the first look at it, so appreciate it. Definitely, definitely. Um, yeah, bishop g5. But yeah, so going back to this, so you looked at this for 10 minutes. You said in a game in 90 with a 30-second increment, maybe. You just take it 30 seconds. Yeah, increment 30. That's good. I always like that 30-second increment. So after e5, bishop g5. Oh, well, that loses, right? So he has to go bishop g5. So again, like you don't. It's not a win, but I think it's advantageous for sure. You go h6. Let me see what Stockfish thinks. Just I'm curious whether you have to take whether the queen should take back as I thought, or the knight. It's actually liking knight. I think it fluctuated a little bit. You probably have to give it a little time to analyze it, but it's actually saying it looks like you could take with the knight. Now I was looking at a line where it looked like he was hanging on by a thread. Let's see if that actually works. Because yeah, it's not recommending the knight takes e5 move. Because I was like, does that work? Well, if knight takes e5 doesn't work, then you just got this in for free, and this could come soon. Let's say they go, well, if queen c2, yeah, I mean, I think black is just a little better here. Kind of have with a bind. I mean, it's not winning or anything, but it's just like it's just more comfortable for black. Not that different from what happened in the game, but there's the bishop pair again. That's important. That bishop pair is something, it's something concrete. That's what I want. I want something concrete out of the opening. Okay, let's say you do, I don't know, knight move somewhere in f5. Well, we might get hit by e4 actually, but somehow if we can activate this bishop and shift it along with the queen, and then you got this bishop over here, that could be something. That could really be something to work with. And it's an endgame advantage in a lot of cases too, as Fischer showed many times. Slight advantage, but again, it's something to work with. Okay, let me know if you have any questions at the moment. A draw after queen d2 was offered. After queen d2, where was that? Let's see. After these trades. Yeah, oh, here. So he was right. That's what I thought. White did, of course. I mean, he's a lower rated player, and he said, "Okay, I'll take a draw against him. He'll gain a few points." And clearly, I guess maybe he knew you had some endgame prowess, and you were able to outplay him. But yeah, I mean, this was ambitious. It was interesting. It turns out that apparently it's worse, but it's hard to foresee that honestly. But just think of it as like it's fragmented, and the king is not there now, but if he gets there, it's going to drop. It's hard to hold. But I don't know. I mean, queen e8's got to be, yeah. Then it really is kind of a draw. So maybe he had a psychological impact on you. It's like, in effect, it's like, well, I don't want to draw against this guy, so I'm going to do something, the most ambitious thing, which is maybe it was a wise choice for him to offer a draw in that case. But it turned out that he didn't find it. He should have refuted it, but he didn't find it. So hey, hats off to you for taking the risk and it paid off. So hey, no harm done there. I mean, he had to prove it. If you don't prove it, then it's yours. And he learned his lesson, right? And you learned lessons as well, but you got the point. So, when Queen E1 wasn't working because my hand was ready to play, I would have played King D7. Wait, where King D7 was? Oh, is that like instead of something else? Oh, right, somewhere else. Towards the end when you made another king move and you didn't need to, or there's another move where it could have gone. I mean, that didn't matter too much. Oh, that did matter. I see what you're talking about. In the line where where it was between either winning completely or white wins if you played it. Well, white has to play accurately there because it looks like it's just like both sides have queens roaming the board. But with accurate play, white's actually completely winning because it's white to move in that line, right? After you get the. But that's fine. I mean, you know what happened there. You know your reason for why you did it. That's up to you to figure out exactly why it happened, how you can avoid that from happening. But at least you know what it was, and we all have to kind of do our own a little self-analysis in that sense, figure out what it was that went wrong and fix it. But I think you're on track there. Sounds like you know what's going on. I was always afraid of B3 until I punched it in. Oh, I see. Okay, so because I was saying, hey, why not? Well, and that was wise. Like you didn't go with it earlier, but when you could have done it was when he was on B6, and then you went away from it, So this is where, oh, that was for b5, not a5. Because here, yeah, here a5 made a lot of sense, right? And then you're loosening b5. But now earlier, I'm not sure where b5 was. Do you know what move that would have been? Like, for example, where you could have played b5? Oh, I see. Because you were waiting on that, and I was saying you could have done it earlier. Worried about b3. Okay. Well, what is b? Let's say you did it now, and the computer likes you. Let's say you did it, and then b3 happened. Oh, knight b3. Are you worried about knight? Well, knight b3, you just play c4, and he has to go back anyway. You gain tempo. So I gotta watch out for this guy. If b3, maybe move the knight. Yeah, move the knight. Now, what? Okay, what about this c4 business? Oh, you don't even play b4. You can just play bishop c3. Hit it right away. They counterattack. Do we need to do that? No, it's not necessary. I mean, you could do a6. But it looks like it's fluctuating. The computer's liking it. Yeah, bishop c3, and isn't that winning a piece almost? Because that knight is just stranded there. I mean, and that's why this seems so strong. But I mean, of course, white needs to go immediately over here. When they don't do that, it's just really weakening. Okay, but say knight. I don't know. Let's just say knight b1, knight b4. Sure. Now, if you push, if you push, you get taken. So you have to go bishop b4. Do you have you have to do a3 or something? f3. Well, the problem is now they got c4, but that becomes a target. It's going to fall, right? So why f3? What's the idea? To go knight f2 and then cover d1. Right? So that makes sense. f3, and then you just chop this, and then the knight comes back to b6, I think, right? d2, force it, and then yeah, sure, why not? Force him here. I don't know if it matters a bunch, but and then knight b6, king f1, and then you pick it off, and you're doubly guarding this, so you're not going to get it anytime soon. And even if you did, it would probably be winning king upon endgame, and by then you're getting your king in the game. You know, you can go to the queen side, you can try to get it over here somewhere, you can maybe get this in, cramp the pawns. Yeah, but it shouldn't have been a problem to get that in. Okay, cool. I was burning a lot of midnight oil trying to find something for. Oh, I see. Yeah. So that's what I figured. It was significant time pressure there. I wanted to get b5, c4 without any. Oh, okay. He's explaining it. b5, c4. Okay. I see. So it might have been a misjudgment slightly, because I don't think they had anything there. And keep in mind that anything without any anytime they do get b3 in those types of lines, let's say for example here, they are weakening c3, but you're not weakening anything. Well, the thing is, how are you going to get it in without them playing? I mean, they could play b3 anytime they want, right? I don't think it's a big deal. But let's see. If you go b5, yeah, but I understand that somehow you calculated that. In that case, I probably would have recommended maybe knight d7 here, if you're not going to do it immediately. And then, okay, let's say do that recommendation a4. Yeah, then again, it's going to be harder, but you can still probably go with a6. Maybe let's say we do it now. But if we're going to do it, we may as well just play right away, right? King f1, b5, and again, they don't have time for b3 in these types of lines because of this.